He had spent years telling her she was worthless. Not just useless, but worthless. Like she had no value. Like she had no purpose. Like she had nothing to contribute to the world. Year after year. Day after day. Word after word. Until she believed him. Until she forgot her dreams. Until she stopped believing in herself. But sometimes, the moment you stop believing in yourself is the moment you discover who you really are. This is a story about a woman who was told she was worthless. A woman who was told she would never make a difference. A woman who was told she should just give up. This is a story about what happens when that woman decides to save thousands of lives. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen. But she wasn't always a doctor. She was 34 years old now. But 10 years ago, she was just a girl with a dream. A girl who wanted to help people. A girl who wanted to make a difference. A girl who wanted to change the world. She met James at university. He was charming, ambitious, successful. He was everything she thought she wanted. He pursued her relentlessly. She felt special, chosen. She didn't know then that being chosen by James meant being slowly destroyed. They got married after graduation, and for the first year, it was perfect. Or seemed perfect. Then everything changed. James was a successful businessman, very successful, very wealthy. And he wanted a wife who would be his accessory, not his partner, not his equal. His accessory. He wanted her to quit medical school. Medical school was too demanding, he said. Medical school would take too much time away from him. Medical school was a waste of her potential. She should just focus on being his wife. She should just focus on making him happy. She should just focus on being beautiful and available. Sarah tried to argue. She had worked so hard to get into medical school. She had dreamed of being a doctor since she was a child. She had sacrificed so much. But James was persuasive and controlling. And he made her feel like her dreams were selfish, like her ambitions were threatening, like her desire to help people was less important than his desire to have her at home. So she quit. She quit medical school. She quit her dreams. She quit her purpose. And she became what James wanted her to be, a wife, an accessory, a decoration. For 5 years, she was that. 5 years of being told she was worthless. 5 years of being told she had no value. 5 years of being told she should be grateful that James even wanted her. 5 years of slowly dying inside. Then one day, something shifted. She was at a charity event, a medical charity event, and she was listening to a doctor speak about a new treatment for a rare disease, a disease that killed thousands of people every year, a disease that had no cure, a disease that was devastating families. And as she listened, something inside her woke up. She remembered why she had wanted to be a doctor. She remembered the feeling of helping people. She remembered the purpose. She remembered the meaning. And she realized something. She had given up on her dreams. But her dreams hadn't given up on her. In that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in 5 years. She felt alive. That night she made a decision. She was going to go back to medical school. She was going to finish what she had started. She was going to become a doctor. She was going to save lives. James's reaction was immediate. "Absolutely not," he said. "You're not going back to medical school. You're my wife. Your job is to be my wife, not to be a doctor, not to have a career, not to have ambitions, just to be my wife." His voice was cold. His eyes were darker than she had ever seen them. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid. And Sarah looked at him, and she realized something. She had spent 5 years trying to make him happy, and he had spent 5 years making her miserable. It was time to stop. She told him she was leaving. She told him she was going back to medical school. She told him she was going to become a doctor, and she didn't care what he thought about it. James tried to stop her. He threatened her. He told her she would fail. He told her she was too old. He told her she was too stupid. He told her she would never make it through medical school. He told her she would come crawling back, but Sarah just smiled and walked out the door. But Sarah didn't listen. She left. She enrolled in medical school, and she started over. Medical school was hard, harder than she had expected. She was older than her classmates. She was starting over. She had lost 5 years. But she was determined. She studied day and night. She worked part-time jobs to pay for tuition. She sacrificed everything. She went hungry some nights so she could afford her textbooks. She cried in bathrooms between classes. But she never, ever gave up. But she never gave up. She graduated. She became a doctor. And then she specialized. She specialized in the rare disease she had heard about at that charity event. The disease that killed thousands of people every year. The disease that had no cure. She spent years researching. She spent years studying. She spent years working with patients. She became obsessed with finding a cure. She worked 18-hour days in the laboratory. And slowly, she made a breakthrough. She discovered a new treatment. A treatment that could save lives. A treatment that could cure the disease. She published her research. She presented her findings. She changed the medical world. And her treatment saved thousands of lives. Thousands of people who would have died. Thousands of families who would have been devastated. Thousands of lives saved. Because Sarah had refused to believe that she was worthless. Because Sarah had refused to give up on her dreams. Because Sarah had refused to let James define her. She became famous, not for being James's wife, but for being Dr. Sarah Chen, the doctor who saved thousands of lives. She was invited to speak at medical conferences. She was invited to universities. She was invited to hospitals around the world. She was recognized. She was respected. She was valued. She was everything James had told her she could never be. Then one day, she was invited to speak at a major medical conference, the biggest medical conference in the world. She was going to present her research. She was going to talk about the thousands of lives she had saved. She was going to inspire other doctors to continue the work. James heard about it. He decided to attend. He wanted to see her fail. He wanted to see her stumble. He wanted to see her prove him right. He wanted to see her come crawling back. He didn't know what he was about to witness. But that's not what happened. Sarah walked onto that stage. She was radiant. She was confident. She was powerful. She was everything she had always been. But now, the world could see it. The stage lights caught her face. And she glowed. She presented her research. She talked about the patients she had saved. She talked about the families she had helped. She talked about the thousands of lives that had been changed. She talked about the man who had told her she was worthless, and how she had proven him wrong. And the crowd erupted. Standing ovation, cheers, applause. And in the audience, James sat frozen. His face went pale. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Because he was seeing something he had never expected to see. He was seeing the woman he had called worthless. And she had saved thousands of lives. She had changed the medical world. She had made a difference. She had fulfilled her purpose. She had become everything he had told her she could never be. And she had done it without him. Without needing him. Without wanting him. James tried to approach her after the speech, but security stopped him. Sarah saw him, and she smiled. A real smile. A smile that said, "I'm free." A smile that said, "I'm powerful." A smile that said, "You were wrong about me." And then she looked away, like he didn't matter anymore. Then she turned away, and she walked out of that conference, and she didn't look back. James stood there, frozen, because he had just realized something. The woman he had called worthless, the woman he had spent years destroying, the woman he had tried to erase, had become something he could never be. She had become a healer. She had become a savior. She had become a hero, and she had done it without him. In fact, she had done it in spite of him. She had turned her pain into purpose, her suffering into strength. Years later, Sarah would be asked about James, in interviews, in podcasts, in documentaries, and she would always say the same thing: "I'm grateful for him. Not because he was kind, but because he taught me something important. He taught me that I was stronger than I thought. He taught me that my dreams were worth fighting for. He taught me that my purpose was bigger than his control. And that lesson changed my life." And now, she uses her platform to help others find their strength too. Sarah went on to mentor hundreds of young doctors. Doctors who had been told they weren't good enough. Doctors who had been told they would never make it. Doctors who had been told to give up. She showed them that they could make it, that they could be great, that they could save lives. She showed them that their past didn't define their future. And many of them did. They became doctors. They became healers. They became heroes. All because Sarah showed them it was possible. All because one woman refused to believe she was worthless. If you're listening right now, and you've been told you're worthless, know this: you are worthy. You are capable. You are valuable. And the moment you believe that is the moment you change the world. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. If you believe justice always unfolds, you already know what to comment.